Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch another beautiful, lovely day here in the Ozarks. I know it's kind of a broken record, but man, we've just been on a last few days. It's my kind of weather, right? I like it when it's just a little cool. It could even be just a slight bit cooler, and I'd be okay. But I like it like this, so I'm enjoying it immensely. So there's been a lot of buzz online in the last few hours about us potentially getting ready to strike Venezuela. I mean, the president yesterday, I think it was yesterday, was it the day before? I don't remember. It's all a blur. It's all a blur at some point. But he said himself that it was happening soon, that we would be striking, that he's given the okay and everything, that we would be striking Venezuela. I mean, he's saying that we're taking out drug, cabal type of people in there. But, we're striking Venezuela soon. And there's been all kinds of reports. It's imminent. It's all this. Well, this afternoon, a bunch of buzz started happening. The flight tracker was showing bombers, long-range bombers taking off here in the United States, headed south. Showing, tracking around Venezuela. Now, the transponders were on, which that's not normal. So I think it was just a show. But there's been reports of a lot of activity at bases, U.S. military bases in Puerto Rico and other places near the Caribbean area. And then also a lot of military activity on Venezuela's part of getting, missile systems ready. And things just started to look like... At one point, the flight tracker was showing all civilian aircraft kind of in that area just disappearing, like getting out of the way. So there was a lot of reports that we were potentially in the process of bombing them or getting ready to. I haven't seen any reports yet showing that we have, and we still could over the next few hours. Who knows? But I think it's coming soon. At least that's what it looks like. I'm sure there's a lot of psyops going on trying to, make Venezuela think that we're getting ready to, but yet we're not. I don't know. But, here's another thing that's not been talked about much. What's going to happen to oil prices? I mean, oil prices are already starting to go up with the new sanctions on Russia, on their oil. Venezuela has the largest oil reserve on the planet. And it doesn't matter if we get oil there or not. The rest of the world does. And we start attacking Venezuela, it could affect oil prices. May not, but it could. So something to think about. Also, Russia has responded to this report that the United States has given its thumbs up to Ukraine using already existing missiles at their extended range. They have been, held back from firing past a certain point, certain distance inside of Russia. And so now they're able to take some of those ordnance and, deploy them deeper into Russia. Russia's responded and said, if that happens, that's going to be bad. That Russia will retaliate very dramatically. Badly. So we'll see. I don't know. This morning's video, I was talking about potential civil war. I was talking about civil unrest the last couple of days and just the stuff going on here in America. And I want to talk to you just for a moment, for I guess probably the rest of this video, on something that you probably know about. I don't know how much you've thought about it. You may have a different opinion of it, but the thing is the country's there's a lot of people, maybe not everyone, but there's a lot of people in this country that are very much struggling. Maybe they've made poor decisions in the past. Maybe they run up too much debt. They have too many cell phones and all this other kind of garbage. Maybe they do all these things that they shouldn't do, and they waste their money on that, right? Maybe they get government handouts and subsidies and stuff. And it's what I'm saying here is not really political about whether that's right or wrong, because we're at a point now that's almost no longer relevant. What is relevant is the fact that a lot of these people are already hurting because of high prices, devalued dollar, all this kind of stuff. And now with government shutdowns, with funding cut due to that, and funding cuts that's been happening over the last several months, things are starting to reach a breaking point. And you may be okay with those funding cuts. I am. I'm okay with cutting lots of, if not all, welfare funding. But the fact is that, and I've said this in the past many times, that if it happens, it's going to be catastrophic. You can't have people that for really now generations have existed on these handouts and then take it away from them and expect everything to go all right. I've been in some meetings, because of the volunteer work and stuff that I do and the volunteer position that I, do in the county and stuff. So I've been in some meetings. I've been on some phone calls. I've talked to several people even today, and things are not good. Food stamps, EBT, SNAP benefits, they're not expected to happen this next month. Pretty much all federal welfare programs, any type of federal assistance, any of that kind of money that comes from the feds, it's not happening in November. In fact, what I'm hearing said is that even if the budget and all that was resolved tonight, that it's unlikely that, they could get all the employees back and get everything done in time to get that money released by the 1st of November, which is when most of it is. The 1st through the 3rd is typically when that kind of stuff happens. And so November, we're almost kind of past that point of no return, that November is going to be a rough month. And that's not the only reason why. It's just one of the reasons. It's a big reason, but it's not the only reason. You've got high prices everywhere. Utility costs are high. You've got cold winter months coming in, so utilities are going to go up anyways because of usage. And now people aren't going to have the money. They're not going to be able to, buy their food and pay their bills because they're used to getting, food stamps or whatever. And I'm not here to talk about the politics or the morality of this, because the fact is even if you said, well, go get a job, there's no possible way they can go get a job, start working that job, and get their first paycheck in time to make any difference for at least, the next 3 or 4 weeks. And a lot of these people live paycheck to paycheck. They're not preppers. They're not people like you and I that may have food supply. Some of them are, but not all of them. And so my point is that things are about to get really hard for a lot of people. And I think this definitely plays into a breakdown of society. I'm not saying it's a guaranteed that it will happen. I'm saying that the chances are dramatically increasing because people are going to struggle. And when people are struggling and they don't have the food and they can't pay the bills and they're getting kicked out of their homes and all this kind of stuff, it's going to cause them at least greater odds that they will act out. There's a lot of other programs that's already being cut, programs that break down to the local level. A lot of nonprofits that are charitable, big parts of their funding are federal funds, and they're not getting them. So these local nonprofits that help people pay their utility bills when they've lost their job or pay their, that month's rent when they're struggling, a lot of them can't do that because they don't have the funds. And so it's more than just people that, not getting their food stamps. It's a lot of stuff. Money coming in to fund homeless shelters, money coming in to, fund, young single moms that are, pregnant or have just recently had babies, all that kind of stuff. It's being cut. And I'm not complaining that it's being cut. What I'm telling you is that the repercussions based on the also current temperature, let's say, here in the United States, could cause things to spiral. I'm not an expert on, most things, but I am a fond, reader of history. And I'll tell you this, when you read a history book about a civil war or a civil uprising or a breakdown of some type of society and government in a country, they may say, the Civil War happened because of slavery, or it happened, or this, conflict happened because that government enacted this law. What they typically don't tell you in history books is what was the social conditions and the social attitudes leading up to that, because that does affect things. Because you see, if people are already desperate and they're struggling and things are hard and bad, and then something happens, it can be the tipping point to cause really bad things to happen. If things are good, if society is healthy and good, and then something bad happens, it typically doesn't hurt as bad because things are already good and they can absorb that. And so these are things that are not really talked about much in history book. You have to really dig to kind of figure this out. And I'm telling you, right now, America is not in a good place. We're not in a good place morally. We're not in a good place spiritually. We're not in a good place just in general societal getting along. Like, everybody hates everybody. No one's getting along. It doesn't matter. If you're not like me and you don't agree with me, then you're evil and bad and I don't like you. Up until the point and past the point of using violence. That's already happened. Right? Then you add on to that just a struggling economy. You add to that the stress of all the stuff going on, whether you like Trump or don't like Trump, or this or that with illegals, the stuff going on with around the world with wars and potential wars and conflict and chaos. Then you start taking people's food stamps away. You take away their assistance to pay their utility bills, the assistance to pay their cell bills, the assistance to pay their rent, and they can't do that, and they're getting kicked out. And homeless shelters are closing down. There's several in southern Missouri already that I know that they've closed down because they can no longer afford to keep the doors open. A lot of social workers and various workers in these nonprofits that their salaries are paid for by government funding, they're being let go because there's no funding. And then everything is expensive. Food prices are high. Food pantries can't afford to put food in. People can't afford to donate. They and even when the food pantries get donations of money, it doesn't go as far because the food prices are high. Everyone's needing help, so there's more people needing food. It's not a good situation, folks. And even if this doesn't end in the result of violence, of like collapse, I think it's definitely ending in a result of just a real bad, hard-hit financial crisis. It's not going to be for everyone. There's going to be people that's going to make out like a bandit. And if you watch mainstream news, I suspect you'll think that everything's fine because that's how it's been in a lot of ways up till now. They want to tell you that the country's doing great. You know, people are buying $150,000 cars, and Tesla's making billions of dollars, and this company's making billions of dollars, and that company, and all these billionaires are becoming bigger billionaires, and people are making all kinds of money on crypto and stock market, and I mean, people are getting rich. But there's a lot of people that are really hurting bad. And I think it's going to make it a difficult time for this country. And yeah, it could cause a breakdown. It absolutely could cause a breakdown in society, and we need to be prepared for that. And that's the point that I'm trying to get to. Yeah, help in your community if you can, but also be prepared for things to get bad, not just for you, but for the people around you that aren't prepared, and the people around you that aren't mentally stable enough to handle this and what they might do. You need to be getting your houses in order and preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.